What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Pack a Day Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. Today, we are going to be going over Broderick Jones, one of the top offensive tackles in this year's draft. And what I would say is most intriguing for Packer fans here for Broderick Jones is that if I had to guess today where Broderick Jones falls in the draft, I think that 14 to 18 range is exactly where we're looking, maybe 12 to 20, but either way, Green Bay at pick 15 is right in the thick of where I expect Broderick Jones to go in this draft. We know Green Bay prefers premium position players. Offensive tackle is absolutely that. So we have to take a look at Broderick Jones in great detail, and is a very fun player to break down. So let's get to it right away. He is a 6'5", 311 pound, in my opinion, left tackle. Might have some right tackle versatility, but he's certainly a tackle. And like I said, in my opinion, a true left tackle prospect. He is a redshirt sophomore out of the University of Georgia. I'm not sure if you know this, but Green Bay likes their University of Georgia first round picks. Could be the fourth in 3 years to be exact, but he will turn 22 in May. So he is 21 as of right now, but will be 22 this upcoming season. Had a 9.58 RAS, or relative athletic score, but did not complete the bench press or the agility drills. As an offensive tackle, he tested in the 50th percentile for height, 58th percentile for weight, 79th percentile in the vert, 79th percentile in the broad jump, 95th percentile in the 40-yard dash with a 4.9740 for a 311-pound offensive tackle. Absolutely ridiculous speed for his size. And 99th percentile in the 10-yard split, which is exactly what matters for offensive linemen. Not many 40-yard dashes in the actual game for an offensive tackle, but that 10-yard split very much matters. Again, 99th percentile with a 1.67 10-yard split. As far as the agility goes, what do I always talk about here? Like, if they show it on tape, you're not as concerned about it. And to me, Broderick Jones is a very fluid athlete who shows the ability to get to the second level, to change directions, to move agilely, to recover, all of it. He's a very clean mover. So I am not super concerned about him not testing in the agility drills. The agility shows up on tape more than enough, and I have no red flag or concern about him not completing the agility testing. As far as his stats go, per PFF, in 2020, he had all of one pass block snap, so no real need to go over that. In 2021, he had 194 pass pro snaps, 8 pressures, 2 sacks, 1 penalty. In 2022, he had 470 pass pro snaps with only 9 pressures, 0 sacks, and 2 penalties, playing at the highest level in the SEC for the University of Georgia. In total, 665 pass pro snaps, 17 total pressures allowed, only 3 penalties, and like I said, he almost spent the entirety of his time at left tackle, and I'll add on there only 2 sacks allowed in those 665 pass pro snaps. So only 17 pressures in 665 snaps as a true left tackle at the University of Georgia is really, really impressive statistically. As far as grades go, in 2020, he had 25 snaps and a 90.3 grade in his very first action. In 2021, he had 438 snaps with a 78.8 grade. And in 2022, he had 933 snaps, by far his most, with a 78.2 grade. The best part here, again, very much like Peter Skoronski, he graded well as a pass blocker and graded well as a run blocker as well. So you absolutely love to see both of those things. As far as his positives go, he has incredibly quick feet. He is a very fluid athlete, and how that really comes into play is his ability to recover. I would grade him out extremely well when it comes to recovering when he's beat. Now, first of all, he doesn't get beat very often, but when he does, his unique ability to get back into play and sort of save what could be a disastrous to very bad play and making it so that his quarterback has an alley for escape and can keep that play alive, he is very rare in that regard. A lot of these big, lumbering, physical offensive tackles, if they get beat, they're not turning around, changing direction, and then using foot quickness to get back into play. They are just beat. Broderick Jones, not too dissimilar to a David Bakhtiari, I might add, has the ability where if he actually gets beat, to turn around, change directions, get back into play, and get back on that defensive end, edge rusher, whoever it is, to make sure that they are giving their quarterback another opportunity to maybe escape or keep that play alive just a little bit longer. Like I said, if this was something that was happening constantly, where he's always getting beat and then he has to recover and make a play, that's not great, right? But the fact that he very rarely gets beat, and then when he does, he still has the potential to get back in the play, that is a very unique and special trait for Broderick Jones. I love his overall blend of agility and physicality. He's got good size, 311 pounds. He has the frame to add even more functional strength. I think he's going to stay a very good athlete with the ability to get to the second level, move really cleanly, recover on plays, and his overall, like, you just look at him, I know I say this maybe a little bit more often than I should, but he very much looks the part of a starting left tackle in the NFL. He can get to the second level easily and finish on the second level. Those are two things that don't always go hand in hand. A lot of times you get the finesse players who can get to the second level, but they're not finishing the play, or you get the big, heavy, physical guys who can finish plays, but they don't have the foot quickness to get to the second level. And when I talk about that blend of quickness, agility, speed, and then the ability to actually have some upper body strength and finish some plays as well, that's exactly what I'm talking about with Broderick Jones. Moves incredibly well in space. So if you do have those screen plays, if you want him to pull out to the left, if you want him to get to the second level and seal a linebacker, whatever it is, he moves extremely well and can get there, get to his spot. And then, like I said, has the strength, the physicality to actually make a play on the second level as well. He is very young still, 22 years old, or about to turn 22, and he is battle tested already in the SEC. Now, he only has basically a season and a half of starting at Georgia, so it's not like he has this insane body of work, but even in those 25 snaps he had 3 years ago, he made the most of it. He blocked very, very well. Then he came back and then wasn't a starter right away, ended the season as a starter and blocked really well, and then had his first opportunity as a full season starter. And what did he do? He blocked really well. So it's, again, one of those players who, whatever you have asked him to do in his time at Georgia, he has found a way to get the job done, and I expect that to continue at the NFL. Maybe not right away. He's still a little bit raw. It might take him a little bit of an uptick to kind of get not reacclimated, but acclimated to an NFL offense. But I do think that he is going to acclimate himself very well, and that what he possesses, what his traits are very transferable to the NFL level. He mirrors extremely well, and that goes to his movement skills and his ability to use that foot quickness. And, you're talking about mirroring, and edge rusher might try a variety of different moves, might come inside, might go outside, might try a spin move, but whatever it is, he can mirror back and forth and use that foot quickness to his advantage. He has a basketball background, and that, what I would say is overall natural athleticism shows up very much on tape. You can tell that this was not just some, big kid who they immediately put at offensive line and he's just kind of this lumbering athlete. This is a true athlete, and that just shows with the 4.97 40 and his basketball background. This is not some, like I said, just some random stiff offensive tackle who weighed 380 pounds. So they're like, all right, you're a tackle. This is a real legitimate basketball player who has really quick feet, really great at natural athleticism, and who has grown into the offensive tackle position. And I think he's going to add more functional strength. I think he's going to keep that ability to move and use his agility and quickness at a high level and really become a well-rounded athlete at the position. And he already is a really great athlete at the position. And I would also say that he has great overall recognition, especially with picking up twists and stunts. And I would even add a caveat onto that. How good he is at play recognition and picking up that stuff for basically only starting a year and a half and being relatively young still for the position is very impressive to me. And that is something, again, that should carry over to the NFL. And I think he's going to continue to get better at. But the fact that he possesses that already is a very special trait for somebody who hasn't played a ton of snaps in college. As far as the negatives go, he will duck his head quite a bit, and that is a huge no-no for an offensive lineman. Really anyone in football, but you never want your head down. There's no advantage to your head being down. That can lead to a natural bend at the position. If you're bending at the waist, you're not playing under your, you're not playing with great knee bend, you're not playing with great balance, and defenders can easily take advantage of you. And it happens a little bit more often in run blocking where he'll, just kind of put his head down and, start trying to drive. He just needs to stay up. He needs to stay a little bit more on balance, and he just needs to make sure that he's playing with better technique. But that is stuff that, like I said, he's only a year and a half starter. That's going to come with time. He needs a little bit of, just overall seasoning to work out some of those kinks. But I have no doubt that stuff is going to come in time. His anchor needs to continue to develop, much like a lot of these really clean moving athletic offensive tackles. Their Achilles heel is their ability to anchor and really hold up at the point of attack against more physical, bull rushing defensive ends. And that is something that he is going to have to work on. Something that David Bakhtiari worked on through his career. Andrew Thomas, who we're going to talk about more, the former Georgia offensive tackle, something that he needed to work on as he made his transition from Georgia to the New York Giants. But that's something that just adding that lower body functional strength and learning how to play with better balance and stay anchored is going to keep him a little bit more upright and just rock solid against those bull rushes in the NFL. Another negative is that BJ Ojulari, the really good edge rusher out of LSU, gave him some problems. So when he had the opportunity to go up against a higher end prospect, that prospect did give him some trouble. So a little bit of cause for concern as he's now going to be seeing players much better than BJ Ojulari on the regular every given Sunday. So that's something that will need to be vetted out a little bit. As I mentioned, he needs to stay upright, knees bent, on balance. Those are all things that as he starts becoming more ingrained in the position and it just becomes repeatable over and over, that's something that should just come with time and seasoning. His technique overall is very much a work in progress and something that doesn't just he's a natural athlete. He's not quite a natural offensive tackle yet. And that's where, again, your pass pro sets, your hands, your ability to reach on the second level and play with good pad level leverage, all of those things, those aren't things that just come inherent. Those are things that have to be learned and come with more reps. That's just something that he's going to need a little bit more time on before he becomes a more well-rounded technical offensive tackle. I wouldn't consider him a heavy-handed puncher, meaning you want to get your hands on, or sometimes, obviously more independent hands, but you want to use that hand and jar the defender and, kind of stun them, stunt their overall progress, jar them back a little bit. I don't see him having those violent hands at the point of attack. He gets his hands out. His hands are a little bit inconsistent, no question about it. But, you would like to see a little bit more of a physical punch from him. Like I said, he's a good athlete. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to hold him back, but wouldn't consider him a mauler or a physical player at the point of attack overall. But he does have good enough play strength to go along with his athleticism to fit in any scheme that you want him to fit in. And like I said, overall, while I do think he has the functional strength to be good in the NFL, who doesn't want more functional strength and a little bit more physicality, a little bit more of that angry demeanor? I think he could use a little bit of that, but it's nothing that I have any major concerns over. As far as scheme goes, you can put him at left tackle in any scheme in the NFL. If you're a zone team, if you're a man, power, whatever you are, you can do a little bit of everything with him. And I think he's going to bring, like I said, just a really well-rounded athlete to the table in any system that he's in. And I think the other thing that I would add here is I think he's very moldable. So whatever team that he gets to, let's say you are more of a power team, if you want him to add some functional strength and put on more power, I think he can do that. And I think if you want him to be even, just keep his quickness and maybe that's what you're, focused on, I think he can be basically the same player that he is right now. So I think he's going to be very moldable to whatever team he gets to. And if you want him to be, like I said, more of a power guy, more of a zone blocking guy, I think he can fit any scheme. And like I said, he fits very well at left tackle in either of those. His ceiling, I think, is really good to Brickishaw Ferguson back in the day. If he really hit, and I mean really, really hit, I do think there's some Tyron Smith there from the Dallas Cowboys. Smith is an incredible player in his prime, so I don't think he can get quite there. But if you said he hit everything just out of the park and became the top prospect he's capable of becoming, somewhere in that Brickishaw Ferguson to Tyron Smith range. His floor would be a Noah Fant, really great athlete, basketball background, but never really made it into he was a starter for a while, but never a good starter is what I would say. Rotational piece, you can play at left tackle, right tackle, and kind of be your swing tackle basically, start in a pinch. That's probably his floor. And the comp is his former left tackle at Georgia, Andrew Thomas. I saw so much of Andrew Thomas in Broderick Jones. It was almost a mirror image at times. And they're not apples to apples. In fact, I think Andrew Thomas is just a better overall lineman. And I think Jones is a better overall athlete. And I don't it's not perfect, but man, I saw so much similarities in their game. And I think it's going to be a very similar career trajectory for Jones, where Thomas's first year, the Giants took him very high. Teams thought they should have taken him, should have taken some of the other tackles in that draft. Mekhi Becton, Jedrick Wills were the two. And then I know Tristan Wirfs played later, but more of a right tackle. or got drafted later, but they thought the other tackles should have gone sooner. I loved Andrew Thomas in that draft. I had no issue with the Giants taking him at that spot. Always expected him to develop into a really good offensive tackle. And this past year, we saw him break out and have a fantastic season. So I think that's going to be very similar for Broderick Jones. Like I said, I would have graded Thomas better coming out of college than Jones, but I think their career arcs can be very similar. And I do think Jones, that first year, I don't think it's going to be super pretty. I think there's going to be things that he needs to work on and understand that he needs to become a pro at the position. But I do think in year 2, year 3, you're going to start to see him take a jump and really become a well-tuned, well-rounded offensive tackle in the NFL. What he brings to Green Bay, great scheme fit for Matt LaFleur's system, highly athletic, and a high-end left tackle prospect that could really hit and be a stalwart at the left tackle position for, like I said, probably a decade plus. Is there value at pick 15? Yeah, I very much think so. If you can get a high-end left tackle, like that has pick 15 value all day, every day. The big question here is, would Green Bay be interested? Here's the thing that's really interesting about a left tackle. I talked a little bit about this when I broke down Paris Johnson, but Bakhtiari you have right now. And I think the first thing that you have to know if you're Green Bay is what's your expectation for Bakhtiari? Is your expectation that knee can go at any moment? All right, well then Broderick Jones probably much more on the menu, right? Is your expectation that you're going to release him after next season for salary cap savings? All right, then Broderick Jones much more on the menu. Is your thought that Bakhtiari is going to spend 4 or 5 more years in Green Bay until he decides to call it quits? All right, then Broderick Jones probably not on the menu. I think Jones is a left tackle all day, every day, who could maybe go to the right side in a pinch, but his best position is left tackle. So if Bakhtiari is going to be here for 5 more years or so, then you probably don't invest in Jones. And the other thing here is that even if you don't necessarily have faith in Bakhtiari, maybe they really like Yosh Nijman. And while they're only putting him on a second round tender this year on a 1-year deal, maybe their whole expectation is to sign him to a long-term deal. And maybe their plan is to have him be the heir apparent to David Bakhtiari. That's not entirely out of the question. They also have Zach Tom, who could be the heir apparent at left tackle. And I actually think his best position long-term is left tackle. And you also have Elton Jenkins, who could potentially play left tackle. So they actually have right now on the roster 4 guys who I think could potentially be starting caliber left tackles. So going out and getting another guy right now who is primarily a left tackle and may not have a ton of versatility, that creates a little bit of a conundrum of what you're going to do long-term at the position. Now, you always love depth. You always love having high-end offensive linemen, and Green Bay certainly finds unique ways to find those, find places for those guys out on the field and put their best 5 out there. But I think Green Bay is going to have to make the evaluation of their own team of how do they feel long-term about left tackle? Is it Bakhtiari's job? Is it Nijman's job? Is it Tom's job? Is it Jenkins' job? And if they feel like any of those guys are a really good long-term left tackle right now, then you probably just leave it as is and you probably don't go after a Broderick Jones. But that's going to be for Green Bay to decide. Maybe they feel much stronger about him being a right tackle and feeling he could play that position as well. And even if Bakhtiari stays 3-4 more years, that they can bookend him with Broderick Jones. Maybe they feel like Yosh is going to be gone after this upcoming season. Maybe they feel like Zach Tom is more of an interior player. Maybe they don't want to move Elton Jenkins. And then all of a sudden you've got Bakhtiari at left, Broderick Jones at right after this season. And Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins inside. So that's very much within the realm of possibility as well. So I do think there's value there. I do think Green Bay will value him as a premium position, but they have to evaluate their left tackle spot first and what they want to do long-term at that position. Overall, really fun prospect, fits Green Bay's system, may not help a ton in 2023. It would be a really good fit for him that he could sit behind Nijman and Bakhtiari and maybe even Zach Tom for a year and really learn the nuances of the NFL game. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world for him. Maybe come in every now and again, maybe 6 offensive linemen, maybe give him some snaps, but just get acclimated to the NFL. I think that would actually do him some good. And I think if all of a sudden then you needed him to start and be the guy in 2024, I think that's very within the realm of possibility. And I think he could be a very huge offensive lineman piece for this team down the road that, like I said, could play a decade in this league. Premium position, high-end athlete, young, University of Georgia. Kind of like I talked about with, really all of these prospects that match that profile. SEC, young, high-end athleticism, and premium position. this is exactly what Green Bay looks for. Broderick Jones is that in a nutshell. He has every box checked for what Green Bay likes. So, and like I said, I expect him to kind of go in that 14 to 18 range, which is right where Green Bay's selecting. So very much in play. Left tackle value, or like what they think of their left tackles, is going to play a huge part, but don't dismiss it entirely that Broderick Jones could be in play here for Green Bay. Very Packers-esque pick. That is going to do it for me today. Always appreciate you joining me. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, but I will be right back here tomorrow. And until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.